And he's going to be speaking about MLK, the murder of Martin Luther King, which again, talk about causing trauma in society, right?
Yep.
And trauma-based mind control, where a whole nation at one moment can be put under trauma, and then what do they do to us next? It's at the 4 Points by the Sheraton Hotel, and we'll be right back with more Mr. Green. We're talking about his work here called The Devil and Dr. Perry, about Dr. Bruce Perry, the widower of Arliss Perry that was murdered there at Stanford University. We've done some shows about that. Now, Mr. Green, real quick, where can we find this work, this piece you wrote, The Devil and Dr. Perry?
It originally came out in Steve Shuttle Press, Ken Thomas's publication, which I don't know if you can still get it online. You know what? I'll put it up at my website. Okay,
there you go. It'll be up on his website there, joegreenjfk.com, and or hiddenhistoriescenter.org. We'll be right back after these messages with more of Dr. Joe, not doctor. Oh, man, I'm losing it, brother. His wife is the doctor. He's Joseph Green, Joe Green, right after these messages.
There you go.
Oh, man. And now a word from our sponsors.
Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services from the comfort of your own home. Sessions offered in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.
Hey, check out our brand new sponsor, Dynamic Solutions 2. That's the number 2. They offer a life-changing, dynamic financial solution. The finest in fast, professional, affordable credit repair. Is your credit in bad shape? Do you need a new car? Ready to buy a new house? You want to rent an apartment? Are you going to apply for a job? Any one of these activities, they're going to ask for a credit report and then check out your credit score. Let Dynamic Solutions 2 erase your negative credit remarks. They have affordable monthly prices. They accept Visa, MasterCard, PayPal options available. You go to www.dynamicsolutions, that's the number 2.com, or call 424-888-2820. 424-888-2820. Now, if you enter promo code ED or you mention Ed Opperman, you get a 10% discount. How's that? You get a free consultation, all negative items removed, get back in positive credit position. Dynamic Solutions 2, life-changing dynamic financial solutions. 424-888-2820. Tell them Ed Opperman sent you. You get a 10% discount.
Hey, you, podcast listener. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. Take the blue pill. You wake up in your bed and go back to listening to mundane podcasts that won't challenge your religious beliefs and your so-called truths about reality, the universe, and consciousness. Take the red pill. Subscribe to the Event Horizon podcast, hosted by Mark Anthony Peterson, and he will show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Event Horizon takes a walk into the paranormal with a splash of conspiracy. It's the podcast that would be born if David Icke and the X-Files had a baby. Subscribe to the Event Horizon podcast by Mark Anthony Peterson on Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Stitcher, or any of your other favorite podcast platforms. Remember, all we are offering is the truth, nothing more.
Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with Pure Soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Fight Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. And we're here today with Joe Green. You can find him at joegreenjfk.com. You can find him at hiddenhistoriescenter.org. You can meet him in person in April at the... did I say something wrong? Hello?
No.
Okay. You can meet him in person in April, Kansas City. He's been speaking on MLK, the Martin Luther King assassination, at the Four Points by the Sheraton Hotel. Boy, I tell you, toward the end of that last segment, I was just rambling like a guy in trauma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just... Well, where are we, Joe? What do you want to take us to next in this discussion?
So, and the other interesting thing about Dr. Perry in particular is that going back to the 80s and this whole McMartin thing, there was the so-called satanic panic, where it was made very clear back then on shows like Phil Donahue that this was all, a nonsense, and that people were confabulating stories, talking about, things that didn't happen, and, all this stuff about Satanism. And that became the kind of the media position on all this. And in particular, was the position of the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, which was tied to Skeptic Magazine and a lot of those people. And the constant refrain was that when children say these stories, that they are making them up out of the whole cloth. Which is interesting because there was a book in 1992 called Trauma and Recovery, written by Judith Herman. And her book was I was talking to my wife about this. Her book was one of the first ones to really deal with post-traumatic stress syndrome in a kind of holistic way. And her position on this was that when you had abuse cases, that something like 2 to 8% of children were not telling the truth. So more than 90% of the time, the children are not lying. And in fact, one of the things that child psychologists and people who do work in this area end up uncovering, and this was true even of Sigmund Freud, that unfortunately child abuse is just incredibly widespread. And it's happening far more often than people realize, and it's why so many people end up having these traumas from their experiences in young childhood, either from family members or people they knew. It's almost always somebody either in the family or close to the family. It's almost never strangers.
Yeah, there's letters. Freud wrote letters where he said that he suspected that it was organized.
Yes.
Fascinating.
Yes. And he got in trouble for that too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It keeps coming up.
Yeah.
And we're talking about centuries now of behavior from it's tied to the very wealthy, the very politically connected, the best and most aristocratic families.
Yeah.
And there is an infrastructure of writers, psychologists, all kinds of people to facilitate this happening, which again sounds crazy, but unfortunately, like I say, it keeps popping its head up. Like, every now and then you get this little blip, like I'm sure you remember the Washington Times, the Mooney newspaper ran that one article about the boys touring the White House when George Bush the First was there.
I just had him on the show last night, Henry Vinson, who was he ran the Madam operation. They was charging that through his credit card machine. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So again, it happened.
Yeah, it's real. That guy has no reason to make up any of this. He went to prison twice over it. He was abused horribly in prison. There's no reason for this guy to exaggerate or make money off of this or or some kind of a political agenda, and he names names.
And that's where you start to get into. I have a lot of been talking about with my friend Ed Curtin about this a lot, about this thing I call the weirdness, which for years I never talked about because I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Which is exactly this: that when you are doing this research, I mean, it's one thing to say that the state has a political reason to kill certain individuals, including the president, depending on the circumstances, depending on whose power. It's another to posit an enormous, continuous network of evil. And I would really prefer not to be in the camp advocating for this or saying that there's a chance it's real, but unfortunately, what am I going to do? The evidence is out there.
Yeah.
So what do you do at that point? Because, and it should have been obvious from the very beginning, because I mean, one thing about going back to the thing that kind of started this whole situation, not the pedophilia situation, but the started the reign of terror that's been going on since President Kennedy's death, is that President Kennedy was executed publicly,
right,
in a public square, and with all sorts of Masonic connection to that particular murder. If you're familiar with, I just lost his name now, King Kill 33.
I know what you're talking about.
And I don't. Yeah, and I don't. And, again, I don't really want to take that stuff seriously. But what are you going to do? It's like when the kids talk about satanic rituals going on in the basement of the preschool. Like, I would like that not to be true. But whether or not you believe in Satanism or not, clearly somebody does, because they're doing it. So it's not a question of whether I believe in God or the devil or whatever, but they are either they are making it appear to be connected to Satanism for another because it's more psychologically traumatic or for some other reason, or that's for real and they're doing it because they think that at some level they have to, because it appeases whatever deity they're believing in.
And they don't all have to be in on it either. I've had a lot of personal interaction with Rudy Giuliani, and if someone were to say, because you've read the book by William Ramsey about 9/11 was an occult ritual, and if you were to say to Rudy Giuliani, hey, you were part of a satanic ritual, he would say, what are you talking about? I'm a Catholic. I went to St. Augustine's. I went to, and in his head, that's what he believes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that entirely. And I'm sure, we all have our kind of personal structures in our own heads that we interpret information based on. And there's also another human tendency, which is to ignore the parts that we want to ignore.
Yeah.
Right? That's what happens in our own families, right? We just decide that we're not going to pay attention to the fact that, Uncle Bruce or whatever has a string of lovers. And, we just decide we're not going to talk about that at Thanksgiving. So we all have that. And especially as you move up in the hierarchy, so many good things are happening to you on a financial and social level that I assume it becomes very easy to compartmentalize all of that. Because why wouldn't you? Because, hey, things are great. I'm in charge of this, or I'm the mayor of that, right? Things are going good.
Yeah, I had
so
on the
you
god
decide
niece,
not to pay attention to those little things.
Yeah, I had on the god niece of the great niece of Jimmy Savile on the show. And
wow!
And she talks about how when she was 12 years old, Jimmy Savile was coming over, and they dressed me up in my prettiest dress, and they put me on his lap, and he molested her in front of everybody, and it was a big joke. And then years later, he came to her engagement party when she was being engaged to get married, and got her in the corner and did it again when she knew it was wrong. But it was like he's just having fun,
Wow. So what is that? How do you interpret that then?
Mind control. Like we're just disassociate.
Yeah. No, I think so. And when you have so many case studies like this, it becomes hard to deal with. The other issue is, I think too, you may so in